Hey guys, Robert here from The College Investor. I am excited to talk to you today about what happens if you are a late starter when it comes to investing and you are getting started investing in your 30s. So, last week we talked about some things to consider when you're getting started investing in your 20s. And that's great. But what if you're getting started a decade later and you're a late starter and you're getting started investing in your 30s? What do you need to think about? Like, how is it different? And how can you still be successful as an investor so that you can retire on time? So let's dive in and talk about it. First off, I want to share with you a little stat. So last time I shared with you about 30 to 40% of people get started investing in their 20s, and Gallup poll did a survey of when people started investing, and they found out that about 28% of Americans don't start investing until they're 30. So about 1 in 4 people are late starters. The scary part is there's still some people that don't even get started investing into their 40s or later, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about investing in your 30s. So, how is investing in your 30s different than your 20s? Well, the biggest thing is for most of us in our 30s, it's been a long path to get here. Chances are the reason we haven't invested to date is we didn't have enough money, we didn't have a stable job, we didn't know what we wanted to be after school, and we bounced around a lot. Maybe we got struck with some life events, unexpected children, unexpected health issues, all kinds of different things lead people down a path where money and investing and savings was a challenge in the 30s or in their 20s, but now here they are in their 30s and they know they need to get started. So let's get started. Let's share what you need to think about when you get started investing in your 30s. So the big thing is your 30s are filled with life events. And investing in your 30s and getting started investing in your 30s is going to be a game of financial balance. So I'm a big believer in financial balance. You don't have to do, investing or, going to your best friend's wedding. You can do both. You just have to plan for it. So, some stats here is, most people, a good, almost 50% of men and women in America today are getting married in their 30s or later. The 30% of women are having their first child in their 30s. So, there's a good chunk of life events that are just now going to start happening. But at the same time, you need to build wealth. So, the biggest thing that you need to do as you get started investing is understanding your goals. And you got to be real with yourself about all of it. Like your goals of finance and what you want to save and when you want to retire, that's cool, but like you have to be real with yourself about when you want to save, when you want to invest. What life events are going to be important to you? What's really going to happen? For most people, I really believe that you need to take care of yourself first. So this means having an emergency fund of at least 6 months already saved should something happen to you. Because honestly, you're at this time where you have someone relying on you. You probably have a husband or a spouse. You might have a child or a child on the way, and they are gonna, things can happen. You could lose your job. You can't now, unlike when you're 22 and you lose your job and you can go sleep on your parents' couch, that's not a reality for most 30-year-olds. So you got to have that 6-month emergency fund funded and there in case anything happens. The second thing you got to do in your 30s is you need to make sure you're financially organized by this point in time. If you aren't financially organized, if you don't have a tool like Personal Capital or Quicken or Mint.com already set up, you need to jump on that bandwagon before you start investing because you're just adding complexity to your financial life when you start investing. And if you're not financially organized, it can become a real challenge. So make sure you get yourself financially organized. Once you've taken care of yourself and you're organized and you have that emergency fund and you're prepared, you need to make sure you've taken care of your family. So family is huge in your 30s, and I'm going to keep hitting this point hard because family is typically what changes for most Americans. Either their late 20s or their 30s, they're getting married, they're having children, and most people are not taking care of their family financially, and it's scary to me because I have seen in the last year at least 3 occasions where people have really hurt their families by not being prepared. So what I'm talking about here is making sure you have a will, a trust, you have life insurance, and you have disability insurance. If you have a family or a spouse, those 4 things are mandatory before you get really started investing and building wealth for the future. The reason is a will is going to tell people what happens to your kids when you die. I hate thinking about it, but it's one of those things that honestly, I've seen it happen to 2 of those 3 families didn't have a will, and my gosh, it was heartbreaking what happened afterwards. The next thing is a trust. So as you start building wealth, the trust is what helps keep the money straight after you die. And it's nice to just have the trust set up first, and then you can start adding things to the trust afterwards. You need to have life insurance. So we talked about life insurance on the blog about 2 weeks ago. Life insurance should be an essential part of your financial plan if anyone depends on your income to survive. So for the most part, this is a spouse or children, but life insurance can replace your income. So if you die, your family doesn't become homeless because your income is suddenly gone from the equation. And then finally, disability insurance. This is the one that most people forget about, but this is almost the scarier one because if you don't die, but you're in a bad accident and you can't work, what happens? How are you going to pay for things? You might get Social Security insurance, but that might not be enough, or you might not get that. So you got to have this disability insurance. Most people get it from their jobs, but if you don't get it from your job, you need to look for it outside of your job. It's just essential, guys. It's these essential tools to protect your family before, it's one of those goals that you have to have before you start really saving for the future. So number 3 is just saving for the future. It is, deciding on how much you need to save, how you want to save. For most people in their 30s, it's going to be a 401k or 403b, and then it's probably going to be an IRA to supplement that. So make sure you're taking advantage of those things, and we'll dive into that in a little bit. And then the 4th thing is deciding on what big events are going to happen and planning for them. Because if they're not part of your plan, chances are you're not prepared for them. So are you going to be getting married? Do you want to have kids in your 30s? Is your best friend going to get married? Is your sister going to get married? Is your, do you want to take a big vacation? What are these plans? What are your goals? Those are essential questions to ask yourself as you're building this financial plan so that you can strike a balance and make sure you're achieving everything. So last time we talked about whether you needed a financial advisor or a financial planner. And when you're in your 20s, we said it doesn't make a lot of sense to meet with a financial advisor. There's not a lot they can do for you to make a plan. But that kind of changes when you're in your 30s. In your 30s, it can make sense to meet with a financial planner to discuss creating a plan if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself. So I kind of gave you a guideline above what that plan should look like. Take care of you. Make sure you have a will, trust, life insurance, disability. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, it could really make a lot of sense to meet with a financial planner. We recommend using a fee-only financial planner to put together this plan for you. You want to pay for that service, and that service should last you until your next life event. But it could be a really valuable tool if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself. An alternative to meeting with a financial advisor, if you just want to stick to the investing side of finances, because you feel good, you need to get insurance and stuff, but you just feel lost on what you should do with your investment accounts, is to consider a robo-advisor. So our 2 favorite robo-advisors are Wealthfront and Betterment. And what these services do is they take a profile of you, you answer some questions, and they set up your investments for you automatically. And all you gotta do is deposit money into those accounts, and you can know that your investments are doing their thing like they should be because these companies are handling it for you. So really keep that in mind as you're getting started investing in your 30s. So what account should you be investing in your 30s? Well, in your 30s, the big thing is that you need to invest more than you invested in your 20s. So in your 20s, we kind of shared with you that you could start about $3,200 at 22, and you will be fine. You will reach $1 million by the time you're 62. But the scary thing is by the time you hit 30, if you want to reach $1 million by 62, you're up to $6,900 a year that you need to invest. And if you wait all the way to 39, you're spending $15,300 a year to try to reach that $1 million goal. It gets really expensive. So the earlier you start, the better. And the more you save, the better you'll be. So the best order for most people to save for the future in their 30s is to first contribute your 401k up to the company match. So most companies offer a match, whether it's like 5%, 6%, whatever that number is, make sure you're contributing to that match. Then you should be maxing out your IRA up to the contribution limit, which for 2016 was $5,500. And then after you do your IRA, you should go back to your 401k and you should continue to try to max out your 401k. Now that's a really high limit for most people. That's $18,000, and that could be a stretch, but it's a good stretch because really you're just saving for yourself for the future. Another couple things to consider is if you qualify for a health savings account or an HSA, you should really try to contribute to the max because all that money works just like an IRA, and we talk about that on the blog. And then finally, if you're earning a side income, you should take advantage of a SEP IRA or a solo 401k to try to save even more, and that'll save you on the taxes that you're going to pay with your side income. Part two is if you haven't started earning a side income, maybe you should look at it. If you're not achieving your income goals yet in your 30s, it's easier to start a side income in your 30s than it is later in your life. So the biggest thing here is that you need to start. If you're in your 30s right now, get started. Get your goals on paper. Go through what we talked about. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, and then start saving and start planning for those life goals. And, if you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, consider doing a robo-advisor. It's really easy to get started. And if you look on the blog post today, guys, we have a link in the description right below this video. You can click on it. We have links to all that. And we also have some model allocations. If you do want to do it yourself, here's some great things to think about as you're building your investment portfolio. So guys, I hope that answers some questions and provides some clarity about what to think about as you get started investing in your 30s. Yes, you're a late starter. That's okay though, because honestly, it's better to start now than it is any later in your life. So don't kick yourself for it. Just jump in and get started. Thanks guys. I will see you next week.